Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at a couple auditions from Street Dance China Season 6, Part 1 of the first episode. So on Patreon, I'm actually doing a full reaction of the entire episode of Street Dance China, both of Season 6 and of Season 4. And so what you're going to be seeing are excerpts from that full reaction. What I end up doing is as I encounter a battle or a performance, I end up taking a look at it as a reaction, dial it back, and do an analysis before moving on with the episode. So it's going to be similar in structure to how I've normally done regular reactions, let's say from the Street Woman Fighter series, and that is what we are doing in this case with Street Dance China. I am also pretty aware of the structure of the show because I am watching it with English subtitles as it gets released, so I have a way better understanding of what I'm looking at in comparison to shows I've watched in the past. So I wanted to let you know that I am definitely trying to take that extra step, really try to understand the full context and full incentivization of the show prior to the analysis to hopefully make it a little bit more objective and understanding of the circumstances. So let's go ahead and check it out. Is he gonna go first? My first taste. Let's turn it up. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, are you ready? Pressure, pressure, pressure. Okay. 音乐，3、2、1。I get it poppin', 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 poppin'. Let the bass kick.
Oh my god. Did he just use his tongue and trace it into his arm? Oh my god.
Pop it.
Oh my god, that was awesome. Okay. We gotta go back. We're gonna go back. We're gonna take a look at this. Just from the setup, it's... Oof. Oof. Like, I am just so humbled at the fact that I got to witness that in this position, you know? When they were saying that he's like a master of the craft, I use this term very carefully when I dictate people as masters of their crafts because there's so much that goes into that. That man right there is a master of the art of popping. And I love how he talked about he wanted to be a part of Ding's team because Ding seems open to wanting to learn. And for me, if I was in Ding's position, I would just be so... The fact that I would be in that position to adjudicate someone like that. Like, that is... Right out the gate, too. Guys, if this is where we're going, I don't know if I can handle it. It's so good. I don't know if I can make it through this. Oh my god. But he's such an artist. He asked, are you ready? You ready to start? First one off. They started, like, you want to start with, like, a tier, a level? This is it right here. Like, okay, they're ready. This beginning, so firstly, I do see that they end up marking the different techniques that we see. So if anything, like, we'll just go through and see what they say and then see what I see too, because with popping and waving specifically, I'm way more fluent in the technicalities of these styles than I am with, let's say, breaking or light feet or crump. Like, for those, I know more of the general sense of the fundamentals and the key features of them, but here I know the intermediate, beginner, advanced techniques because I train in them myself. So that's these I feel like we're gonna spend a long time on some popping today. Just that turnaround, that setup is beautiful. Arm waves, absolutely agree. Yeah, it's an arm wave and waving. Popping and waving kind of go hand in hand, especially in the American context of popping. Waving is a style that helps create dynamics and texture shifts within what you're doing, which I really like. You know, I love that they're sampling Chinese kung fu and it matches the timbre of the music, so that's really nice. Slow motion, yeah, I agree, but you notice he kind of did like a dime stop to help signify or transition it over to hit that sound, to now transition it over into liquid. Now, a lot of people may be like, what's liquid? Liquid is just wave, like with waving, you have different ways you can execute waving. So when you do liquid, it's basically like water. It's not signified to a wave or a tidal wave or snaking or a wind style or anything. It's just liquid, good old liquid wave. So there's nice and smooth, very legato. That would be how you would depict it. Now, what I noticed in here is he really does a lot of tracing, but he does it in very innovative ways. He used his tongue, for goodness sakes. That whole mess, when we get there, we're gonna have a mental breakdown together. But that trace wave over, he goes and he creates a dime stop. But honestly, it's more, I don't know if I would equate that to a dime stop, because you have a reverberation that takes place there. Do I think that he's like rebounding it through the use of a pop? Potentially. But with the dime stop, the concept is stopping on a dime and complete muscle control to go from point A to point B. Now, if he was like rebounding without having any sense of reverberation after it, then maybe I would equate it to a dime stop, but I don't know. I really love this influence though. It's such a great tie together. That is so cool, that, and then he rebounds it, brings it back in, the flow. It's a spherical work. Something that a lot of people tend to neglect is the usage of spheres or shapes. And part of making sure that you maintain the imagery is not fluctuating the shape unless the point of it is to make it smaller or to make it bigger, right? And I think there it was just really nice to see him use it just as a simple transition. It was beautiful. That right there, boom, da 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 da, very cool. To match the musicality, still match the concept he's going with, the storytelling, but still showcases fundamentals in a very nice way. Love that, just the bleed through and the melt around, tying it back into the top of the wrist, the hand waves, and the threading was so seamless. So threading is the concept of whenever you have like a part of the body and you thread it through, and I feel like I'm gonna have to explain that again, because it's just when you see threading, like breakers thread versus poppers thread versus wavers thread versus contemporary dancers thread, it's different. And so at least with the popping context, a lot of times you use waving, and you can wave through a pocket of energy in your body, kind of translates through it. So it's like a needle, like threading a needle. It's like the thread going into a needle, like that. That hinge, you see how he's hovering with the knees and he seamlessly comes back up, continues in his eyes where he's directing his head and how he's getting it to move where you want it to look. It helps us know where he wants us to look at. So the hinge was an accessory to the overall aesthetic of his wave that he was snaking through. Love that. Now he's integrating more tuts into his angles, which is beautiful, beautiful showcase of dynamics and his maturity of the craft. He grabs it, pulls it in. Now this right here, people don't understand. I really don't think people understand. Honestly, it takes you failing at it a lot to really figure out what this is. So there is a concept of spider fingers. They call it a jellyfish hand, and I think this is what that's called, possibly. I've heard it called many different things. We'll just go with jellyfish hand for the sake of the title. But knowing, just being able to isolate your finger to begin with, like being able to make it move without moving the other fingers, that's already pretty tricky because you're not used to doing that in your day-to-day life. So not only do you have to train that, you have to also train the pushing and the pulling effect of the weight distribution, or how you're creating tension within your fingers. Also with finger waves, a lot of times that kind of stuff gets neglected when you are an artist. We don't think about the hands as much as we should. I would say tutters think about it more because most of their craft stems from that. But for me, that was one of my chronic things that my mentor, when I was working through waving in the very inception and infancy of it for myself, that was something I had a chronic issue of, is I wouldn't actually pull through the wave through my entire finger. And so that was something that I've been really working and honing in on for years now. And I really empathize with just the amount of discipline and consistency it takes to get fluent finger waves. So for him to just be able to just throw this crap right here, and I mean that in the most complimentative way possible, is truly humbling to me. And being able to convert it to a sphere and then create the energy right here that's hovering above the chest, but then he slows it down, match the music, and he chooses when he wants to reverse that. Like, you're kidding me. And now that was more of the innovative bridging the gap. And honestly, it works very well with Ding, because Ding has that kind of artistic choreographic expression. Hence why maybe Salah wanted to go with him, because of those similarities. But this track really tailors well to Ding, who is adjudicating him or seeing if he would be a good fit for his team. And so now we're reaching more into the fundamentals, things that we're used to seeing in the popping realm. And how he hits it. Now, how he hits that kind of fixed point, that's something he's also really good at, is his fixed points. It's a lot of fixed points can stem from miming. So whenever you see mimes create a box, it's the counter movement of making it appear like there's something stuck in air, right? And he does a fabulous job convincing you that there's something there when there really isn't. That's just fabulous. I get it poppin'. Now, the last time I heard this track was Just Jerk Body Rock 2016. So this track is it's not old, but it is older than other tracks that we've heard. So it's super pop. Like, his pops are phenom here. He's just, where he's choosing to pop, there's just presence there. And sometimes you'll see people do popping, but doing a popping that's just mainly happening in the chest is very different than popping isolation through the arm, like just an arm iso pop versus a shoulder versus a chest versus a core versus the legs. It's all different, and you engage similarly in dynamic, but it's just the overall formality or the technical aspect of it that a lot of it comes from feeling. But just the fundamentals, like, he has this down to a freaking science. It really, it's truly captivating. That you could pick any muscle on his body, he'd be able to pop it. It's really what it feels like. I also have not heard a mashup variation like this of this track. So that musicality really caught me off guard. Look at that footwork. And because he said I get it poppin', he chose to go backwards while creating a ticking wave that waved all the way up through the arms into a head isolation. Oh my god. He has one of the best head ISOs in the world. I want to have my head ISO be half as good as his. And what's nice is he immediately, even though he ticked it up the first time, he immediately, as soon as he finished with the head ISO to create tension through the rest of the phrase, he ended up kicking through the wave to get ready to kind of enmesh himself within that ticking wave to body roll it up again. They're back into the head ISO, so it's like a progression or an iOS update from what he just did in the previous phrase. Trace wave, it's something he does a lot, but instead of smoothly going through like it was liquid, it's because it's ticking more so. You have to think about the tracing arm has to come across slightly different here in comparison to when it's liquid. Like the timing's different, there's more staccato, there's more presence, there's more a dynamic shift with his hand. So even just he's thinking about all facets at all times, or his body is so familiar with the muscle memory of it that he doesn't have to think about all of those things. This just feels like a playground. It does, you know? That right there, that hinge around was sickening. Digs in. He's still captivating because he's still making eye contact. That was so good. So good. Like that was amazing. I've seen him do that before, but it's just so seamless in how he gets into it that he just immediately just counterbalances and counter gravitates here. And so what it is it's really helpful that he's wearing long sleeves and long pants, but taking his hand and pulling it and then pulling his body is super impressive here. And just being able to create that tension and that pull and that drive is just, and just how smooth that's just so smooth. Like look at everybody. Everyone's like, you're kidding. I agree. Reverse worm. It's pretty much a body roll that you would do standing, but you would do on the ground, but he does a variation of it that really enhances the complexity of it, working with gravity. Comes back up. He also takes the knee. He ends up placing one knee up while taking the other knee and pivoting onto it to creating that illusion of that type of like interwoven gear shift with the feet. I love it. Now notice with that posture here, now we're about to get to this right here. How he sits in it is similar to how a lot of people can start up into a cobra, king cobra, or snaking in some way, shape, or form, but I would say cobra. And what's interesting is that actually ties into, he does snaking with his tongue. So that technique is whenever you have your body, your head is really, the crown of your head is what kind of directs you into your directions, just like a snake. But he does that with his tongue, and then he ends up tracing out of it. And that makes me just, my brain die a little bit because I cannot comprehend the sheer practicality of how he was able to make that work, you know? And it was awesome. Anyway, but whenever you just see that, it's just his posture, he holds it down subtly, so it's like foreshadowing of what he's about to do. He goes here, he twists it, and then brings it back, and then look at this mess. Pulls it into the jaw, goes in, pulls it into the jaw. That's some, like, if you've ever seen The Mummy and the little bugs that like get into the skin, that's exactly what that looks like. Like, it's just that, like, that level of commitment. Goes around, take this hand, traces it. Guys, like, that's so creative. I love that. So innovative. This is incredible. Into the trace. Now it's more legato. You notice that trace was significantly smoother compared to whenever he broke it down in that kicking wave earlier. That right there. He goes and he takes more of that spherical work. I love that. Just look at that. Just look at that. He takes it and then he builds the energy. Builds the energy, and he's looking there at that energy, hence why you want to look there too, and you're able to see the manipulation he took care of there. The floss, I love that. Such a gimmick. Ends up triple timing that trace wave. But now we have seen that trace wave a couple of times already at this point. But what's really nice though is because of how he provided context before and after the trace wave, it really makes it work with the track. It is a different timbre he's justifying as well. And he's also going about it in a different pattern. So I think that's totally fine. Then from there he goes, brrr. Now he's using his fingers to justify the sound. Then he brings it in the middle. And then he brings it up, and I love that build because the tension is there, and he's building it using the fingers, getting closer to the head, and then allowing the head to build out that tip of that. And then he freaking deflates down to a neutral, thinking he's done. And then he said I get a pop it, and he caught the bass. Like it was a fly in the sky, and he caught it. And he just killed the bass. Do you just see the level of it? He just caught the bass, guys. You kidding me? That was wonderful. That was fabulous. It's probably gonna be one of the best. That was the first one at the freaking gate. It's probably gonna be one of the best ones we see in this entire show. Are you kidding me? Oh, anyway. All that to say, I will be surprised if Salah does not receive a towel just for the sake of his presence, but also because of the performance he just gave and the level of captivation he had in the room and his performance quality. I will say, though, what's something interesting about this is that Ding's in a position where if he gives him a towel, that feels fair, but also he does run the risk. How does Salah work on a choreographic group where popping may not be the forefront of the aesthetic of the group for that concept or that challenge? Remember, this is my first time watching the show, so I don't know how these challenges work. I do know the groups do operate in some sense of a choreography at a certain point, right? So I know that. But then if he doesn't give him a towel and says, hey, it's pending, I just want to check everybody out, people could be like, you're kidding, it's Salah, right? But also that would be, if I were in Ding's position, I would be like, I want to see everybody. And then at the very end, I would pick my 10, honestly. Because I just feel like that would be the most effective, because he's grouping them up and he may like designate a certain number to each of these groups. Well, what if all of the poppers are trash? Now we know that's not the case and everyone's at a great and high caliber, but I know you want to create a well-rounded team, which is smart to put people in their respective styles. But if there's a particular style that's significantly underwhelming compared to the overall caliber of another style, you're going to run into the same problem, right? So for me personally, I would probably just, I would see everybody and then I would pick my favorites from those to solidify it and then go from there, honestly. But who knows? Like this is great so far. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I was helpful in some way. If you're interested in wanting to see my full reaction to the entire episode, that is released on Patreon exclusively there for those who want to participate and take part in the discussions there. But if you just want to hang out on YouTube and see the analysis of the battles and performances, YouTube's a great way to do that as well. So I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.